You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
3 up, 2 across, tap that play button 3 times and walk through the archway into Dialogue Alley. Hello and welcome to Dialogue Alley, the official Potter Collector podcast about Harry Potter books, book translations, and all other things magical. I'm Melanie.
I'm Carly.
I'm Erik.
And joining us, we have a very special guest, one of our favorite guests that we've had on this podcast before. This is Arun. For those of you who listened to our 100th episode, which was like our favorite episode, Arun is back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm shocked that you would want to talk to me again, but I'm so happy to be here.
Now, that episode I think was probably my favorite episode that we recorded. It's one of like our proudest episodes too, I think.
Yeah.
It was a good one. We're happy to have you back.
I'm happy to be back.
But why?
For a good cause.
But Melanie, why is Arun back today?
Well, for those of you who don't know who Arun is, he is the translator for the Yiddish Harry Potter books, which is the coolest thing of all time. I feel like when we talked about this in our 100th episode, I talked about how like near and dear this translation is to me personally. And it's the only translation that my mom has a copy of this book as well, like needed to have. So when we had Arun on for our 100th episode, we talked about book 1, but very recently, Chamber of Secrets came out. So we had to have Arun back.
Harry Potter und die Kammer von Zoides.
That's the first thing that came to mind when I got it in the mail.
I was curious what it said, so thank you.
Now we know. I could read it, but I could read Hebrew, but I don't know what it is that I'm reading. Obviously, I know that this means Chamber of Secrets, so like that I've got that going for me. But for the most part, I would be lost.
Melanie, I got really like proud of myself when I got, this is like jumping into the news a little bit, but I got that Japanese set, the 25th anniversary, like super uber deluxe edition from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And the box that it came in was this plain cardboard box, but it was only written in Japanese. But I was able to like recognize that it said Harry Potter like in Japanese on it, just because I've seen it so many times on our shelf. I was like, oh, that says Harry Potter. I know that. So like, I don't even, there it is. I recognize it, but I can't.
Know what that says, but I know what that says.
Ask me to write it. Nope, couldn't do it, but I can recognize it. I don't know how that would help me ever if I'm wandering around Japan. I'm like, oh, Harry Potter.
You would know if you made it to a Harry Potter store.
That's true.
If you couldn't see through the windows.
That must be a bookstore because that says Harry Potter right there.
I actually have the Japanese right behind me. It's the bottom one in the very modest stack of 5 books that I have behind me.
Listen, we all got to start somewhere.
Is that more or less than you had the last time we talked to you?
I have a bunch of others, but these are the ones that are nearest and dearest to my heart.
And why is that? Why are they nearest and dearest?
Why?
Okay, well, I majored in Japanese in college. I did a summer in Japan. At some point, my Japanese was like pretty good. I could like read Harry Potter, like understanding 70% of it. Now my Japanese is very bad, but I have Chamber of Secrets here in case I ever want to brush up on it. And then I got the Yiddish books 1 and 2. And then I have the third book in Albanian,
Oh, that's cool.
which
Cool.
is, I guess, wait, Melanie, do you live in New York City?
No, I'm Long Island.
Okay, fine. Well, a fun fact about New York City is that all of the supers in the apartment buildings are Albanian. And so I've picked up a lot of Albanian over the last 10 years of living in Washington Heights in New York City. And then at the top, of course, just the Scholastic Azkaban, which is my next project.
Yeah, no, that's man. I feel like I have so many questions. I just want to start asking them now. But should we start a little teeny bit of news? We don't have a ton.
We
Let's
go
just
into
blow through the news real fast.
let's here comes the wind. Let's blow on through the news.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
All right, item 1. I got the 25th anniversary box set from Japan. It cost me
We just talked about that.
53,000 yen, and it showed up. But boy, I said this to Carly, Melanie, this is the time to buy anything from Japan. The dollar is so strong against the yen right now that like when I was in Tokyo in 2015, it was almost like 100 to 1, and now it's crazy. I mean, it was like $300-ish for the 53,000 yen.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said to Carly, if you're like, you know, on the fence about buying this set because it's kind of pricey, it's never, I mean, I don't want to say never, but it's unlikely that it's going to get any cheaper for Americans, especially, to buy this book. So get it now, especially also, Carly, because it's limited to 2,000 copies of the
I know.
book. So
That's so
there's that
cool.
too.
It's in my shopping cart on Amazon Japan, okay? I'm working on myself.
I
just
know.
have to talk myself into it a little further.
I know.
I'm almost there.
I know quite a few people that have picked this up. So at least 10 people outside of Japan have bought this set. So that's crazy to me, but it's super, super great. I can't wait till you guys get yours. If you ever do, we can talk about it.
Is it new cover art?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold leaf on the side edges.
Yeah, that I knew, but I didn't know if it was new cover art.
And it
It
comes
was
with
enough
this,
for Erik to buy it.
it comes with this little envelope with all of the cover arts in little postcards on there.
That's not new cover art. That's the
This
original
is
cover.
not. This is the Dan Schlesinger one, but the other art is all just
On
gold.
the books.
I can try to peel one out. Do you want me to try to peel one out of the box?
Yeah, kind of.
I'll go through the rest of the news while Erik is peeling out
Oh,
books.
that was
Perfect.
actually
Yeah,
super.
yeah,
that was
good.
super easy. They all look like this. They're all black cloth cover, and I don't personally
Oh, is
like.
it a gold side edge?
Yeah.
It's about as gold as
Side
it gets.
edges? Side
Yeah.
edges are so in right now.
They're so in.
Yeah, they
and
are.
Every cover of the book is like one image, but it's like a combo of a couple things that go in the book. So it looks really simple, and it is, but it's also a little bit more than meets the eye. I have like a really big aversion to like that corduroy texture
Yeah.
and velvet texture. And this book is very clothy, so I do not like touching it at all. Like, it really gives me sweaty palms holding these. I don't like it.
I see you
So
going like this, and
I
I'm
don't like it. And but it also, they have ribbon bookmarks in them too, which is amazing.
ribbon,
So-
not the ribbon book.
Not the written book. So this is
So
great.
it
And
would fail to how it feels in your hand.
they're all one volume too. So even like
Yeah.
the bigger books are all still one volume.
That's cool.
They're really big. And for all I know, it's the same text block, but I don't read Japanese. So we'll wait till Potterglot gets to analyze this.
They'll be the same text block, or someone's going to have a conniption.
Yeah, who knows? But
Oh,
yeah, they're really cool.
All right. All right, more news. Carly, you were supposed to keep going.
Yes, Carly's selling signed books. That's me. I'm selling signed books over on Instagram. I'll have them listed shortly up on eBay. So yeah, I'm selling a signed book, another one to come later. Pocket Potters was published by Bloomsbury. It's reading guides on characters. Right now, it's just the first 3, but they're going to be adding all the way out till Dumbledore, according to them, up sometime next year, I heard. And they're really cute.
They look really cute.
Yeah, they are. Harry Potter collab. Harry Potter is now in manga. Harry Potter collaboration with Detective Conan over in Japan. So that's pretty cool. No confirmed casting on the new reboot, but we have rumors. Dumbledore's thought to be rumored to be possibly played by Mark Rylance. Mark Strong is also a strong contender. Papa Esidu, I'm going to say that just very wrong, I'm sorry, is eyed for being the role of Severus Snape. Fred Goldstein might be playing Hagrid. Nobody for the main Golden Trio, but we don't know. And this is all just rumors from the interwebs right now. Amazon.co.uk is not carrying Bloomsbury books anymore. So any Bloomsbury books that we want to buy, like Harry Potter ones, will have to be bought from a new source because Amazon.co.uk will not be selling them any further.
Wow.
You breezed through that. That's like big news.
Yeah, that last one, that's actually that's crazy news.
That's huge news, but we have a big, great guest. I'm ready to go.
But I have one question. Why is Bloomsbury UK not selling books on Amazon anymore?
Their contract. It was a contractual issue between Bloomsbury and Amazon. Bloomsbury didn't allow it to be renewed. They kept extending, like Amazon kept extending, but Bloomsbury didn't renew it. So they're not selling books anymore Bloomsbury's not cooperating, according to what Amazon put out a statement about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, but not quite as interesting as
our main segment.
That was for you, Melanie. Yeah, I was throwing a softball.
I like how we all
there.
just hung in midair, like
throwing a softball for Melanie to just whack it right over the fence.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Segment, yay! We have a million questions for Arun. So I feel like we naturally started to get into a conversation before we got into our news, but let's do some formal questions. And I think, Arun, you started going into what our first question was what's going on with book 3?
So let's rewind a little bit. So I started book 1, I guess that must have been in 2017. And I finished it obviously it came out in February of 2020. And I remember the day that I sat down and I started a new spreadsheet and I, entitled it Chamber of Secrets, and I translated the first paragraph. And of course, COVID happened, but in addition to COVID happening, I had my first child. So it took 3 years for the first book, and I guess it took 4 years for the second book. So and now I have a second kid. So I'm not sure exactly how like the points on the graph work.
It's exponential. When you have a second
Yes.
kid, it is 1000% exponential.
I have a feeling because I am in the middle of chapter 3, and I've been in the middle of chapter 3 for a few months because I haven't done anything. But I have finished 2 chapters out of like 22, so it is getting a little bit longer. But yeah, so that's what's up. I've started on book 3. The going is slow, but it is going.
Do you have a time frame that you have to abide by, or is it kind of open-ended? Whenever you get it done, you get it done?
So I think that the way that it's working is once I have a draft like in a reasonably good place, I'll let my publisher know, hey, you should start talking to figure out the rights. I feel like this is always very tricky because those conversations, like they go super slowly until they come super quickly, and then suddenly there's a deadline, which sort of happened this last time. And if I guess I don't know what I would have done differently, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen this time. But I think I would rather delay publication by a little bit and just wait until I have it like fully done, and then tell my publisher like, okay, get the rights now, rather than having a time crunch. So I hope that there is no deadline for as long as I have a child under the age of 3.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Parenting is rough, man. I get it. It's so hard. My daughter like wanted to jump on the bed and read Pinkalicious before bed, like, and I'm like, Nora, I've got like 5 minutes, and I really have to go podcast. Like, I can't. No, but mommy, just one more story. So I get it. It's just, it doesn't stop ever.
I had to say no to reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, so I was like, I don't have time. I gotta go.
She's up to Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, we're on Goblet of Fire now. It's pretty. We're moving. We're cooking really fast here.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Which means we can cruise through Lego Harry Potter on Nintendo Switch too, because we can't play past the book that we're on. And I'm not letting her watch the movies until we finish all of them.
Good for you. That's good parenting.
Yeah, that's good parenting.
This is a very good question. Do we think that we're gonna get a Harry Potter Yiddish audiobook?
We've talked about this so many times, and I think the answer is we're trying. I'm like, it's like a game of telephone, but my publisher is trying to have a conversation with the agency, but I feel like the agency is very caught up with other big projects. Yiddish is obviously like one of their top priorities, but their second top priority is, making movies and stuff. So I feel like we may be at the bottom of the list. So it may be a while until we get an answer. I do have a friend who has a studio who's said that he's ready to make it happen. So as soon as we get the rights, I think we'll just do it, because honestly, recording an audiobook is like speaking as not a sound engineer, I feel like doing the audiobook recording is way easier and faster than translating a book. So I hope that it'll happen. Yeah. Yeah,
that would be really cool.
I would love for that to happen.
And it would expand like the audience base too. Like so many people,
exactly.
Like I feel like I primarily, like that's my primary source for books now is listening to audiobooks, because that's what I have time for. So that would be so cool.
I think especially, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, it's not just that. A lot of people who grew up hearing Yiddish never actually learned how to read. And so I think that there's actually a lot of people out there, especially people's grandparents, who would be super into it, but they just like don't have the ability or the time to sit down and read the book. So having the audiobook would be amazing. Chapter 1 of book 1 is on YouTube. I know it's not much, but it's a taste of things to come, hopefully.
No, that's awesome.
That was exactly what I was going to say is that people that maybe are fluent in speaking and are learning to read, it would be a great tool to have the book simultaneous alongside the audiobook so you can follow along and even see if what's in
that'd
your
be
head
so
is
neat.
actually what it's supposed to sound like. Because I feel like that's always the case when you're learning a language code, like you're reading the language. It's always different necessarily than what's actually supposed to come out. So that's like me trying to read stuff in Cyrillic. It's like I stumble along, but then I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
one
knew
really
that the whole
fun.
time.
Oh, sorry, Carly. I was just
I
gonna
was
say
just saying, you're fine.
one really fun thing that I just discovered a couple of weeks ago. It was always my dream. One of my dreams, I guess, was that like somebody would use the translation in a Yiddish class, like in the curriculum. And I stumbled across it in a college curriculum, I think from the University of Michigan. And I was so excited because I was like, this is amazing. And like now, like I know that there's students out there who are actively using this text and like they can use the little snippet of audiobook that exists. So yes, both for native speakers and for students, I feel like it could be amazing.
That's awesome.
Hoping.
This is a fun question. I feel like we touched about this a little bit when we had you on last. But I love the way that this question is worded is, have you been in touch with other translators just to get like advice on translating trickier little components? And then the second part of this question is there a Harry Potter translator support group? I'm like, that's so fun.
And do you meet in the basement of a building with a table with like pastries and coffee with folding chairs?
If there is a support group, I have not been. Hold on a second. There is a Facebook group, but it's dead. I don't think anything happens there. I feel like I would know. Apparently there were a couple of conferences at some point in the past, but I think that also fell off because I feel like there was a while when like all these translators were doing the translating, back when like the books were like, it was like on a 1 or 2 year delay or less than 1 year. And I feel like at that point, there was just so much buzz that it made sense for people to constantly be talking to each other. Whereas I feel like I'm kind of just stepping in the footsteps of giants or standing on the shoulder, whatever it's called. Talking to people who have gone through this before. I did reach out to the translator of the Hawaiian, Dr. K.O. Naismith, and also the Hebrew translator, Gili Bar Hillel Semo. They were both super helpful, but I try to be very careful about getting ideas from them or like actually talking about any of the content, because I know myself, like I have a very associative mind. I feel like translators tend to have very associative minds, and I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like translating something a year from now and I translate something a certain way and it turns out like that's actually I just copied somebody else without even remembering. So I do love to get a little bit of emotional support or just like commiseration or encouragement. But I try not to get too close to them because it's very tempting to start talking about details, and that is dangerous, in my opinion.
I'm just picturing like a big convention with all of the translators like together milling about, and you have a name tag that says like Arun, Yiddish.
That would be so much fun though.
It would
Like,
be. You're like,
fly on
you're
that
just like,
wall.
you're just walking around. You're like, oh, hey, Luxembourgish. Hey,
Ooh.
how is that? How is that there?
It would also be really cool if the difficulty of like finding the translator in the room corresponded to the difficulty of finding their translation on the market. And it's like, where's that Luxembourg guy? I don't know. Oh wait, hold on. Did I see him?
It's like, where's Waldo?
He's over there by the
Asterian?
chocolate fountain. He doesn't leave it alone.
Has anyone seen Asterian? No. Oh no, they're like hiding in like a box fort, like in a corner somewhere.
Exactly.
Oh, I was gonna mention something about Greenlandic, but then it got very morbid because translator is.
Yeah.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Okay, Erik, let's move on.
Okay.
Enough.
I'm going to Google this after the episode. Or just...
Translator drama.
Oh, geez.
They're just a very old translator, and they've passed away, and the publisher's defunct. So any chance of the Greenland book getting a redo would take a lot of effort by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of demand that I just don't think is there, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, just us.
If the United States acquires Greenland, that might open up a big market of Greenlandic learners. That could be one positive upside.
Well,
I would
maybe.
be so sad.
Oh boy.
So sad.
Oh.
I do not support this. Just to be clear.
Same.
I feel like we rarely get political, but I also do not support the acquisition of Greenland or the annexation of Greenland, shall we say. It's not necessary. Anyway, Melanie, what's our next question?
You guys. Do you use any sort of tools for like references, like a Yiddish dictionary or thesaurus or like a little phrase book? Or is everything just like, oh, this is something I have in my brain?
I do not have it all in my brain. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey speaking Yiddish, not really around like a huge community of Yiddish speakers. I mean, we had like a community of enthusiasts, but it was nothing like, what I had for English just by default. So my Yiddish was like fluent, but literarily in terms of literary abilities, it was not very good. Like I opened up a book when I was 13 of short stories. I think it was like short stories meant for young adults. And like, I didn't know every third word. And like, that really freaked me out. And I was like, okay, I got to get serious about this. But the process of learning a language never really ends. So I'm constantly learning, and I've learned a ton through these translations. So to answer the question directly, yeah, I use a dictionary all the time. I try not to lean too much on the dictionary because dictionaries tend to kind of tell you, okay, this is the one or two or three words that correspond to this word in English, and that can kind of stifle you. So I try not to immediately go to the dictionary. Thesaurus for sure. Yeah, there's an amazing Yiddish thesaurus that I frequently consult. And there's also this kind of like the Yiddish version of Google Books, which allows you to basically just search the OCR version of most of Yiddish literature that's run by the Yiddish Book Center. And I'm constantly like, okay, here's an example. I had to translate, like somebody pushed their glasses up to the bridge of their nose. And I was like, how do you say bridge of nose? I couldn't find it in any dictionaries. I was like, I could guess, but then I just went into this like OCR search tool, and I typed in glasses on blank of nose in Yiddish. And I got like 2 or 3 options. I was like, this is amazing. So I feel like that's really unlocked a ton, and also helped me make sure that I'm kind of in line with like the standards of the literary language. So yeah, I use a ton of help. Sometimes I'll ask friends. I'll ask my little sister, like, is this translation really corny? And sometimes she'll be like, yes, that's extremely corny. Don't do that. Yes. My wife also has been a very good resource, because I wanted to call parcel tongue Schlangish, because in Yiddish that literally just means snaky, but and Yiddish slang just means snake, but in American English slang means something else. But I was telling my wife like, no, but Yiddish isn't English, and she's like, I don't care, you're not calling it slangish. So yes, I also I get a little I get by with a little help from my friends.
So funny. Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
This is a random, just Yiddish question in general. What do you, or you might not even know the answer. People that are Yiddish speakers, do you think there is what is like the primary second language that people speak? Would it be Yiddish and English, or Yiddish and Swedish, considering this publisher's in Sweden? Like, what do you think would be like the next language on? There's like, because you mentioned like not using that word, but that would only apply to American English speakers, not like Yiddish and Swedish speakers. Yes,
yeah, no, that is entirely true, and that is, well, that was my argument. I was like, why does Yiddish always have to be compared to English? But America has been a focal point of Yiddish language and culture and literature since like the beginning of the 20th century. There were like tremendous waves of immigration. So even though, people who like to pretend like they're purists like me will be like, no, Eastern Europe is like the nexus and everything goes back there. Like the truth is that Yiddish is multipolar. But there are two very big poles, one in the US, that's probably the biggest, and then the next biggest is probably in Israel. So Hebrew would be the second language. Unless we're talking about monolingual speakers, a lot of, or maybe not the majority, but there's definitely a significant portion of the Yiddish speaking communities, which are primarily ultra-Orthodox Hasidic communities that often discourage speaking other languages because they're a very tight, sometimes kind of closed community. So for some people, they're monolingual Yiddish, but yeah, otherwise it'd be English, Hebrew, maybe French or Belgian. Sorry, wow, Belgian. That's embarrassing. Flemish, because there's a big center in Belgium as well, in Antwerp. So, yeah.
So you would only offend the American English speakers with.
Yes, but also I live in America, and I feel like the majority of sales happen in America, and yeah, my friends would laugh at me. So.
I like it. I think it's very funny.
I love it.
I liked that question a lot, Erik, because my father-in-law is from Israel, and his cousin has been in the United States for a few months. He got like accepted into a really cool program at Pratt, doing like design, just awesome stuff. I think he was one of 17 completely international students that got like invited to this program. So he was living at Pratt and then also living at like my in-laws' house for some time. So like we got like some like Israeli insight having him around, but we got into a conversation about Yiddish and how like sometimes, because both are used, I guess. I mean, also English. He says English is taught just as much as Hebrew is taught where he lives in Israel, but certain parts of Yiddish, it's almost like code switching. It's like, oh, I don't know the word for that in Hebrew, but I do know the word for that in Yiddish, so I'm just going to say it in Yiddish because it also feels more right. And we were talking about like the Yiddish language too in that conversation. We're talking about how it's just such like it's like a richer language because everything just has so much more than just the meaning of the word. Like, it's not just like, oh, you've got schmutz on your face. It's like, oh, but schmutz is not just like dirt on your face. It's like specifically that you've got dirt just like right here. Like, so in my head, I'm like, oh, that's like Harry he's got like some schmutz on his nose. Like, or Ron's got schmutz on his nose. Like, just thinking of like something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like the perfect word in an instance like that. But everything is like so much more specific. And it's just like, okay, you have a shmata, but a shmata is not just like, it's not just like a piece of fabric. It's like this dirty rag that you use up all the time. Like, but if you need to mean something like that, ultra specific, like he would code switch and use Yiddish in that instance instead of using Hebrew. So I like the idea that like what you were saying, how, okay, a lot of people that speak Yiddish will also speak Hebrew as an L2, but I feel like for him, he was kind of saying that it's kind of simultaneous, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody whose family comes from Eastern Europe, Yiddish is like was the medium for sure that their great grandparents lived their lives in, and there's so much of culture and family lore that gets passed down through the language, even if that no longer becomes like the dominant language in the family. So like, you know, Melanie, it sounds like you've inherited a lot of these words as well. So it has an emotional significance. So,
yeah. Oh, it's such a it is. It's like a very like emotionally like driven language, but not in that like, I don't know. It's not the same as like a romance language where you hear it and it's just beautiful and it just makes you think of like, oh, it's just like a city of love because I'm just hearing this beautiful language. It's like Yiddish is more just about like the coziness of the language that has so many multiple meanings to it. It's so hard to explain, but it's like, yeah, it's the lore. I love that word for it. I feel like that's a very good word to describe how I feel about this language.
And there's a lot of history bound up in it. And I think like there's a lot of people who are buying the translation who don't speak a word of Yiddish, but they're like, Yiddish is in my recent past. I want this on my shelf, but I'm not sure. I can't say this for sure, but I don't think that would necessarily be the case for somebody whose great grandparents came from Italy. They wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, I need to have the Italian Harry Potter on my shelf. And I think this may be the case for a lot of minority languages. You know, people have a lot of pride in what they see as their family heritage.
Yeah, it's so cool. I just feel like this is just awesome. All right. Going back to the questions. This is good. I'm going to like combine a couple of questions because a lot of people are like asking about your process. Meaning like this is a good example. Like, do you do the book completely in order, like one chapter at a time, one paragraph at a time? Do you skip around? Because that might be a little bit easier. Or another part of this question, like someone wanted to know how far in advance you read ahead. Like, would you read a chapter in English and like, that's the chapter that you focus on? Or do you read the whole book in English and that gives you, that was a big question, but I think you got where I'm going with it.
Yeah. I want to say that I reread book 3 sometime early in 2024. But I don't remember. I mean, I've read it like enough times that I've forgotten the last time that I read it. But in terms of the translation process, I don't skip around. And the reason why I don't skip around is because I would then end up doing all the fun parts first. And then the rest would just be like a huge slog. And there's so much slogging in translating. And I would much rather like come across like fun nuggets, like spontaneously, rather than kind of use them all up at once. Like I'm trying to remember, like the was it a limerick or like whatever, like the singing Valentine, right? I'm trying to remember. I feel like there wasn't that much else like super like fun from a translation perspective that happened in that chapter. And I feel like if I'd been flipping through looking for the fun stuff first, that immediately would have caught my eye and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I have to go back and just translate the chapter and I don't get to do that because I already did it. That would be very sad. So yeah, I try to just go linearly. And then I go back and I edit the whole thing linearly. And then I do that like 5 more times.
What's been the most fun part that you've translated?
Oh, the most
between the two books part. Yeah.
Okay, probably so you know the part where they're visiting Hermione, right? She got like petrified, and is that the word, petrified?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I at this point I know the Yiddish term is better than the English terms. And they find a piece of paper in her hand and they open it up. Wait, hold on a second. Yeah. And it has like the passage about the basilisk, right? And then at the bottom, that's back. Okay. Just making sure. So I don't think there's anything like particularly unusual about that passage in the English, but in theory, it's supposed to come from like an old library book. Like it's clearly, we don't get to like, I think, see exactly what book it came from, but like it's clearly meant to be like an old text. So I just went back and found, like I looked at some classic Yiddish texts from the late 19th century, and like the grammar is definitely a little bit different. It's not like as different as like Old English or Middle English. It's not like Chaucer, but it has very peculiar spelling.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
It like, yeah, like the grammar is like slightly different. So I went back and I basically translated it as though it were late 19th century Yiddish. So
I love that
that's
so much.
So cool.
That was
That's
really
so
fun.
clever.
I sent it to an expert in Old Yiddish to get some feedback on whether it was good. He had some notes for me. So yeah, that was probably the most fun. And actually, well, many of the printed Yiddish texts from the 19th century were like legends and like myths and like things about, yeah, I guess like some things about monsters and demons and stuff. So it felt very appropriate to kind of place it in its sort of historical context. So that was a lot of fun. That's definitely the one I'm the most proud of.
I love that so much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hopefully people reading it also think that, and they're not just like, what's up with the spelling of these words?
They'll totally get it, I'm sure. They'll listen to the podcast and they'll know.
All right. Last question to wrap it all up with a little bow. Is there anything that you could like that you wish you could go back and translate in a different way?
Huh.
And maybe even like back to book one, now that you've done book two, like something that like a recurrence of something, which is often like when we see entire series that have been retranslated by a completely different person, where, like you didn't realize that something was actually supposed to mean something else in book 6 or something, so they have to like just change the name altogether, or they didn't translate a name of something and just kept the English word for it. And then they're like, oh, that was supposed to be kind of like an allegory to something else.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've said that. I said this in the last episode as well, but I'm so fortunate that I get to translate the series when it exists already, and I grew up reading them. So, and of course, I've had to reread the series a couple of times just to make sure that like, I'm not like you're saying, like the illusions or whatever, I'm not messing those up. I think there's two things that come to mind. One is Sirius Black is mentioned in the first book, right? Hagrid says, Sirius Black, something. Oh, let me the bike, let me the motorcycle. And I translated his name as Sirius Black. And I got a lot of pushback. Like, why did I translate it as black and not as schwarz, which that's the Yiddish word for black. And I kind of had two reasons. One is Schwartz is it's like a very common Jewish last name, Schwartz. And I just felt like it was like a little bit too close to home. Like I didn't want to make it seem like, we're not cosplaying Harry Potter here. Like we're like doing serious translation. And like on a related note, I think like while there are some monolingual Yiddish speakers, they're probably not the ones who are reading the book. The people who are reading the translation have read it in English before, and I don't want to like go changing things that draw people's attention unnecessarily. Like they know Sirius Black, they don't know Sirius Schwarz. It's not like I'm the Spanish translator in Spain for people who've never read the book before. So I don't really want to like go changing the names of characters, especially because then they start thinking like, oh, his name means black. Like, I wonder what that means, which I don't know. I feel like I never thought that when I was reading the English books. It's just like, all right, his name is Sirius Black.
Yeah, I just thought it was the last name. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also not translating it with Yiddish words means that if I want, I can like maybe try to pun on like blackness and darkness, or I don't know, something like that in the later books without it being awkward that, his name is Schwarz and I'm using the word Schwarz as an adjective. So I feel like that leaves some doors open. So I don't, that's not one other thing I regret, but it's something that I often think like, was it the right decision or not? And I'm not really sure. And maybe like in book 5, I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's totally wrong. The other one is,
or you'll like slam dunk and be like, yeah, that was the right.
Be a slam dunk.
Okay, we did it.
Like I spent a lot of time while I was editing book 1. Like I went to like all of the Harry Potter wikis and like I like made a list of all of the names of magical creatures and whatever. And I was like, gotta make sure that like I'm not like using this word for this word when like really I need to save it for like, I need to save it for a doxy or whatever. And I'm sure it's gonna happen that like I'll use one word when I should have used another one and then I'm just stuck with it. But one thing that's interesting about English is that it tends to have a lot of synonyms, which in the original series get very specialized meanings. So you have like a spell and a charm and a hex and I don't know,
curse.
Like,
yeah,
a curse. There's like 5 other words, and I tried very hard to like use like one word for charm and one word for spell. And one word for magic. Like it basically it was the equivalent of me saying like a magic and be magicking and a magicness. And in retrospect, that was really silly. I don't think it like took away from the quality of the translation per se, but I think like as I was doing book 2, and especially now that I'm in book 3, I feel a lot more freedom to translate things in a way that would just be natural in Yiddish. And in Yiddish, the most natural thing is to just use the word for spell every single time. And if I really need to like be specific in a particular case because Hermione's saying like, oh, you like, no, there's a difference between this and this and this, then like obviously I'm going to use different words. But trying to like be super specific just for the sake of being specific when it doesn't really add anything can be kind of confusing for the reader. So all of that is to say, I feel like I'm getting better at translating, and I feel like JK was kind of getting better at writing also as she went through the book. So I feel like I'm emulating that journey. That's what I tell myself. That's what I'm telling you.
That just makes me
part of the translating mantra.
That makes me think now, like there have to be languages where the number of synonyms just do not exist, or just like the amount of adjectives are way limited. And now I'm just wondering, like, I wonder what that translator chose to do when there just are not enough words to differentiate all of those things. And does it get boring and mundane because it's the same word over and over?
This happens a ton where you have like, he dashed across the room, he sprinted across the room, he bolted across the room. There's like English has like 20 different words for this, and JK uses all of them, and it's really annoying. And like as I'm translating it, I'm like, oh, it hurts. Why do I keep saying he ran across the room? But like there's other ways to vary it. You can use adjectives, you can use adverbs, but also if you like take a step back and then just like reread the chapter, like not looking at the English, you're like, yeah, this reads good. And you don't like really feel like you miss anything. It's just like when you start comparing the original with the translation word by word, like you'll find all kinds of things that, you know, are kind of off, but sometimes the source or the target language just requires you to do things a certain way and you got to respect it. You can't put a square in a circle.
I think it just like verifies once again that there is a difference between putting something in Google Translate and just translating it. And it's so hard to get kids that are learning a language, a brand new language, like I'm saying, like a middle school or high school Spanish or French class. Like kids don't get that right away. And I don't think any of us did when we were in high school either. They're like, oh, why can't I just type it in? The teacher says she'll know, but will she know? It's like, yeah, she'll know. It's pretty obvious. So it validates that it's more of an art form than just, do I know this word in two languages? And when you explain things about translating the Basilisk page, or even like the snitch in the first book, and how you just interweave it with, you know, not only the language itself, but the culture behind the language. It's so cool to like hear you talk about your thought process with that. And it's also super nice that you have a sounding board like with your family as well, like right there, you can get an immediate feedback from somebody, instead of like, you know, going days without figuring an answer out. But yeah, it's super cool. I just am so impressed and at this process. And frankly, I'm surprised it doesn't take like 10 years, because it's just overwhelming. And book 2 is not very long. Think about book 5.
I'm not thinking about book 5. I cannot. It will put me into a well of despair. I'm just gonna keep thinking about book 3 for now, and hopefully I'll just what is it called? Like I'll manifest it. I'm gonna manifest it. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Which is your least favorite book, like content wise? Like if you were to say like, oh, my favorite Harry Potter book is blank, my least favorite Harry Potter book is blank.
This is kind of funny. I feel like I used to say, I still kind of feel like Chamber of Secrets is like my least favorite. I just feel like things aren't happening yet. And like, I don't know. There's like, I don't feel like there's a ton of super interesting drama. And like you have this, I mean, it's not annoying. It's kind of brilliant the way that she does it, but like you have like a re-explanation of what Quidditch is. I mean, she does it in a really clever way where it's like Colin who's like tagging along and it's like, oh, he resigned himself that he was going to have to explain the rules again. Wink, wink, reader. I'm going to tell you how Quidditch works. And I'm like, we just did this in the last book. Like, could stop this. Well, but I also get it.
She does that in the beginning of every single book. Yeah. And you notice it. And it's like, it
gets shorter and shorter, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Carly and I, go ahead, Melanie.
No, I was just going to say, like, the reason why I asked is because, like, we're talking about how, like, oh my gosh, daunting the idea of translating Order of the Phoenix would be. And, like, that's honestly, I feel like would be my worst nightmare, because, like, Order of the Phoenix, besides the fact that it's the biggest book, is also my least favorite content-wise. So I would just have such a miserable time, like, sitting there and having to dissect and analyze and translate a book that I'm just like, oh, I don't like this book, and also it's so big.
Wait, what's wrong with Order of the Phoenix? I like it.
I like it if I don't think too hard about it. There's so many moments where I'm like, why don't you just do this?
I'm gonna sum it up by just saying the fact that Sirius Black literally hand delivers Harry a mirror that says, if you ever need me, if you ever need anything, if there's anything, if you need to reach out to me by any means, here you go. Here is the one thing that you could do to reach out to me. And Harry's going to just go do the dangerous thing, put all of his friends at risk so he could go use the flu network in Umbridge's office instead of using the perfect two-way magical mirror. And then, oh, what happens is, oh, I think that Sirius is in trouble. Let's just get everyone to go to the Ministry of Magic, when he could have just used the mirror and then Sirius wouldn't have died.
I remember reading that for the first time, thinking like when he's like, I need to talk to Sirius, and I'm like, oh, he should go get that. He should go get that mirror. And then like it never happened, and then like like a couple pages go by, and I'm like, yeah, he's got that mirror up in his trunk, and then never goes by. And he's like, we need to get to Umbridge's office for the fireplace. I'm like, no, you fool, the mirror, it's in your trunk.
J.K. Rowling's like her cop out for like him not using the mirror is like he receives the mirror for Christmas, and he's like, because of Sirius's risky personality, Harry vowed he would never use the mirror to communicate with him. And I'm like, that's a cop out. That is why give the mirror in the first place? Oh, because I'm going to need it for book 7. That's why I need to introduce this mirror now. Okay, J.K. Rowling, thank you so much for that.
This is like the fan fiction of, or not fan fiction, sorry, the fan theory of Gandalf saying, fly, you fools. And it's like, why don't you just go flying the eagles to Mount Doom? Like,
oh my gosh. I know every time.
Now,
my husband asks me that every single time we watch Lord of the Rings.
We're going to walk. We're walking.
We are going to
We might get rides from trees, but we are walking.
Oh my gosh, Lord of the Rings. I mean, we have to get to the most exciting part of talking about these Yiddish books and dive deep and have a talk about one of our Yiddish books. So let's do that in our translation of the show.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
All right. So, unsurprisingly, the translation of the show for this episode is the Yiddish translation of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Woohoo!
Before we rate this book physically, because we can't really, just go into reading it. And Arun just told us all about how wonderful it is on the inside. So we just know the content is fantastic. Arun, I don't know if you listened to the last episode, but we gave the first book a very good score. So
I did listen to that episode, and it made me very happy that I'm working with my publisher.
Good, because it's just, I don't want to like spoil all of this, but this book is also great, and we can go into why we think so. But yeah, it's just awesome. And I don't think we need to go into a huge background on the Yiddish language in general, because we've already done that in the previous episode with Arun. So go back and listen to that if you want more, I guess, a little summary of the history of Yiddish and what we could do in 30 seconds. Because I'm sure the actual history of Yiddish is more than 30 seconds of me talking. Right? I would assume so.
I would say so.
Yes.
But I think before we go into talking about the book itself, I think we should say how we got ours. I got mine very easily from the publisher's Etsy shop, which is where any of you can buy this book. So that's how I got mine. It was super easy. It showed up in the mail. Although I did by mistake buy 2 because I couldn't remember if I bought one and I couldn't find an email. And that Melanie is
how I got my book. Yay! Which mine was hand delivered, special delivery from Erik, who made a mistake and got 2 books, because then I got to get one. So
I love that.
Mine came special delivery.
We had a Chinatown handoff.
So good.
That sounds like something in a video game.
No, it sounds like it would be like a song title, like book deals outside of WoHop.
Yeah.
I got mine from the usual place, the Etsy shop. And I actually have the link for that on my website right now on the Yiddish page. So I try to make it pretty easy to access because it's just they're great books.
Arun, how'd you get yours?
Language.
I actually got mine last because my publisher is so dedicated to his customers that he forgot to send my copies. Like everybody was getting theirs, and I was like, "This is so great! Like, let me go get mine." And I was like, "Wait, I haven't gotten mine yet." So I got mine like a couple of weeks after everybody else, which is fine. I've seen it. I guess I haven't seen it yet, but I spent enough time with it that I was happy to wait with it.
It's very funny.
So rarity and value, it's not hard to get right now. You can still purchase it. Carly will post the link in our show notes. Value, the cost of the new book plus shipping from Sweden.
Yeah.
Which does add a little bit of cost because it's coming from Sweden. But it's all in all, I don't know. Do you remember how much you were in for, Carly?
I want to say I got 2 as well. I want to say less than between 40 and 50. Wasn't like shipped.
I think it was 30 something.
It should be a flat 29, including like international shipping.
Yeah,
anywhere,
that's what mine was.
Probably plus
30.
tax. That's
Yeah.
above 30.
Yep, that's what mine was. All right, are we ready? Are we ready to go through it? All right, first thing we have to do is smell the book. Arun, you get to open it up and give it a smell. Oh, and do you know our scale?
Remind me.
So it is the OWL scale from the book. So the best score is outstanding, followed by E for exceeds expectations, A,
Got it.
Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Carly, it seems like you've made a decision on the smell.
I really like it. I'm trying to decide where it is, though.
It's in your nose.
It's in your. I love when there's like we do this on with video feed, and all of a sudden everyone's face is just shoved deep inside. Oh, it's just so good. I like it. It doesn't do anything amazing for me, but I still stand by acceptable as a very good smell score for books because it's not overpowering. It's not underpowering. It's
a passing OWL.
It's a good smell, and yeah, A for me is pretty run of the mill when I smell books, unless it's like why am I blanking? The Slovak books. There we
Thank
go,
you.
Melanie. Yeah.
Thank you.
I looked right at them too. And I was
you got
they're
such
right
a look
there
for me.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, they're so good.
A plus. I'd give it an A plus.
This goes without saying, but I don't know if you've done these before with a translator in the Zoom room, but you should feel free to give it a troll if that's where it is. So I won't be offended because I did not make the book.
Oh, we'll be honest. Don't worry.
Okay, I know you would, but I feel like I have to say that.
Now, if we had the publisher in the room, that would be different.
I'm gonna say A. Oh, go on.
Nope. Go ahead.
I was gonna say probably A plus.
A plus. All right. I'm gonna go for a straight A. It smells very like cool, but it doesn't have the smell. I feel like is not overpowering. So I would give it an A for acceptable.
Oh, I didn't realize I was rating this also. I feel like
You are.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at I guess I have no basis for comparison. I haven't smelled the other books before.
It's all subjective. Don't worry.
It smells like fresh paper. So I think that's good. So yeah, I'll give it an A. I'm gonna stay in line with you guys. I'll say an A.
Straight A.
Not as good as the straight ooh. Ooh is the best one. All right, next one is the size and proportions. I'll let someone else start with this one.
I love the size and proportion, so I'm going to say outstanding.
Yeah, I agree with size and proportion. I always love when it's like when a size and proportion is like slightly like almost off in a certain way. I love that this is so it's like quite narrow. Yet it's still a very thick book, which I absolutely love. So yeah, size and proportions, I would give an outstanding.
I agree. Same reasons. It's the perfect size book for a hardcover book also.
I like that it fits with the other books on my shelf. I feel like books that stand out are just like attracting too much attention to themselves. It's very, very low on the humility scale. So yeah, I'll give it a no.
Ooh,
Carly,
that's good.
Carly.
I said outstanding.
Oh, okay.
She did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
She
There
went
we go.
early.
Now how the book feels in your hands. I want to start with this one, because I do want to put the disclaimer out that I've never actually read a book right to left, with the exception of I have a lot of manga comics from Japan that are in English, but they're all soft cover. So I don't know how the hardcover would feel. But if I'm holding it like an English book, I love the texture of the cover. I think that the jacket texture is fantastic. I think the pages feel great, and it does open super nicely. I always say if you can read the first page just as easy as you can read the middle page or the last page, that is a fantastic book. So I'm giving it an O. I think this book just feels awesome. It's like that buttery smooth texture, Melanie. Is that what you're gonna say?
Maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
definitely. I was going to say that. Yeah, I would absolutely give it an outstanding for how it feels in your hands. For pretty much the same things Erik said. The buttery texture of these jackets is so nice. It's not one of those covers that is going to like, it's buttery soft, but it's not going to leave smudges. I also love all of like the metallic detailing on the covers, but specifically like how it feels when you run your hands over it. I love that like slight stick, I think is so fun. And also I love like that the book just falls open anywhere, and it's like, and it's inviting to read just based on how it is in your hand. So definitely an outstanding across the board.
I'm going to also say outstanding. I love how the jacket feels, like everyone said. Also, if you want to take the jacket off to read, the boards also feel really nice and smooth.
Ooh.
So it's just a really pleasurable book, I would think, to read.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Melanie, I love the way that you describe the slight stick as you run your hand over the metallic detailing. That's the word I was looking for. I was going to say friction, but stick, that's exactly it. You kind of, but yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's a no for me.
You're just falling right in line with us with all this stuff. You're doing great for your first tots.
Well,
Nice
I feel
job.
like all of this leads into the quality of the book, which it's an outstanding. I don't need to talk all about it. Carly, why don't you talk about why it's outstanding? Because I think we're going to agree.
I think it's outstanding because I think it's bound well. I think it's bound, like, I think if it were to be read cover to cover a few times, I think it would handle the reading very well, which I'm a fan of. I love to see books bound well because it means they have the potential to be read well many times before, being totally consumed. I enjoy that about a book. And I think the quality of the jacket's good. It's great paper. It's great board. I think it's well thought through. The ink is nice. The paper quality is good. So it's an outstanding for me.
Yeah, for all of those same things. I think the way that it's bound absolutely is like one of the top-notch features of the quality of it. Especially because like I feel like a hardcover book, it's so easy to bind it too tight and then you can't open it, or have a straight binding that will crack the spine. Like this book is absolutely not going to do that. It's just bound very properly. So yeah, I absolutely would give it an outstanding for quality as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to fall in line here. I could definitely imagine. Well, yeah, not just imagine. I look forward to reading this to my kids when they're a little bit older, and I feel like I could hold it in my hand and it's not too heavy. And when you open it up, like the page, it doesn't like try to close or flip to a different page. Also, I've never thought about all of these details, and this explains why it takes my publisher like 2 weeks to answer my emails. He's so busy planning out exactly, how the book should be bound.
Well, that's good
That's
to know
good.
because that means they're actually planning it, because there are definitely some translations where I think the physical printing of the book was like done in a 8-minute meeting with 2 people that were like, yeah, it looks good. Let's just get it
And
done.
some Google
Just
images
get it
open
done.
on a computer.
Google image,
Yeah.
clip art, copy, paste, boom, we got it. Cover art or interpretation of cover art. This, I don't know. I always toy. I want to give it an outstanding because I think it's spectacular. I don't particularly personally love the Johnny Duddle art compared to some of the other art that is used. However, man, just the title and how it's shimmery shiny and the stars on the back are shimmery shiny, and I know that's pretty standard on at least the English Johnny Duddle cover art. It fits really well. Like this alphabet looks so great on this cover. Sometimes we see an English cover that is used by another language and it just doesn't quite fit the way the font is, or the way the placement is supposed to go like in an archway, and it just kind of overlaps and doesn't really, look like it's supposed to be there. Everything on this cover looks like it's supposed to be there. And it looks like you could have convinced me this was the original cover for this book because it
Same.
just looks so
I was
perfect.
thinking the same.
So I for that reason, I think I'm going to give it an outstanding, just because I don't see how you could take an existing cover art that was made for English and use another language and do it any better than this publisher did. So I'm giving it an outstanding.
I'm going to give it an outstanding. Green is my favorite color, so that is already easy. But
it's a bonus point that
yes.
knocks everything up a score for Carly.
I would say I would put this up there with the Icelandic Duddle books. I would say Icelandic and the Yiddish are actually my 2 favorite Duddle books, because the ink saturation is so wonderful. The ombre is so very noticeable on the book. It almost looks like the middle of the book is glowing because the ombre is so present. And the stars are so metallic-y, and I would say it uses the art that is available to it, and they make it their own. It's really nice. You can tell the Yiddish book very easily because of how nice just the spine is, or the back of the book is, because the color saturation is so good.
I'm gonna go for an A+/E-. Actually, I love how this cover looks. I just feel like, I don't know, it's very warm. I'd never seen this cover art until I hadn't seen the cover art for the Duddle cover art for the book 1 before I did book 1, and I hadn't seen book 2 before. I guess I just wasn't thinking about it, and then when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is beautiful. But it's got a basilisk on the front. But why would you give away your plot point, like the major twist? I mean, I don't know. So
At least it's not Ukraine.
Hey, it's
Eric
not
knows.
as bad
It's
as
not
Ukrainian. The back of Ukrainian, which just has Quirrell with the Voldemort sticking out of his turban.
If it happened in the book, they put it on the cover.
Yeah, if it happened in the book, it's on the cover of Ukrainian. You name it, it's on there. Trees, people, animals, wands.
Two-headed folks,
castles, children, dragons, flowers, dogs,
Centaurs.
owls, letters, centaurs, broomsticks. It's
They're
all
the
on there.
busiest covers. Yep.
Yeah, and then it's like boom, spoiler alert on the back.
And it's actually it's multiple spoilers actually. It's because
Yeah.
also Fox is there. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little silly,
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
but it's beautiful. A plus or minus.
I 100% agree with that score for the same reasons. I love the Duddle art. I will agree that like for the interpretation component of this category, like the interpretation and the way that everything fits, I completely agree with Erik, and I do like how it was put on here. I think for all of the reasons like what we were talking about before with like the coziness of the Yiddish language and all of the culture behind the language, what a missed opportunity not having original cover art. And I just feel like panged that there isn't original cover art, and it would have been so cool to see original artwork. So I can't give it that high of a score.
Has a series ever changed halfway through?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
all is not lost.
All is not lost. It is, that has happened before. Vietnamese only book 3 has different artwork than like the rest of the set. What else? Some of them have.
That's the
like,
only one. They're all American
all
art
of them,
except for this one.
except for that one book. There are some that have the British art and then switch to the US art or vice versa.
Khmer.
Yeah, Khmer has like book 1 is
Bengali goes
is
back
British.
and forth as well.
Yeah, so there's
It can happen.
There's still
We have
hope.
hope.
But also like not for nothing, like with the hopes that obviously all of these are going to be translated. Like I want to see a cohesive set as well. Like my OCD wants to see a cohesive set, but my soul wants to see some original Yiddish art. Would just be the coolest of all time.
I don't have this book in any language besides Yiddish. So this is a dumb question. Is the image mirrored on the front of this one, or is it the same as the English one?
I was actually, I don't know.
Was
I
the
can
first
go
was the
look.
first one mirrored? Well, I can just get the first one.
I was gonna say it's too far for me to grab, but it's literally like
here we
right
go.
there.
No, the first one is not mirrored.
Cool.
I don't
Okay.
think this one is either.
I love
But
the
I would
color
have.
differences though.
I know.
I
like
can
really
go in my
nice.
book room and
Okay,
look.
I have it here. Not
Look at
mirrored.
the richness
Not
in the
mirrored.
color though between like
I know.
the original
The
Duddle
Yiddish is
versus
so
the Yiddish. The
good.
Yiddish, yeah, it's like more emerald green versus like a lime green.
Yeah.
Like that's beautiful.
The ink and color, like that's Yiddish and the Icelandic are my favorite Duddle books. They're
All
they're so well done.
I'll give it an E, guys. I'll give
Aha!
it an E. But it's
I wasn't
not
going to
getting an
stop talking about it till you
It's
changed
not getting
it.
an outstanding, but it'll get an E.
That would be, Arun, that'd be a great question. I don't know if you would ever ask your publisher that, or if we could email them and they'd ever get back to us. But we all want to know like why certain art gets picked. Like, is it cheaper to go with an existing art? Is it cheaper to hire someone to make original art? If you hire
That is
original
something
art,
we've often asked in the
are there a lot
Discord,
of
actually.
the processes for going through that and getting it approved by all the people involved up the ladder probably is a lot more tedious and time consuming than just using one that's already been approved by the Blair partnership and everybody. And then the decision to like mirror it or not mirror it if it's an existing one, because there are lots of, which one's mirror? Chinese Mandarin mirrors, I'm pretty sure. Doesn't
I
Mandarin?
think they do. I've got the books. I can
Arabic's
look. I can't
mirrored.
reach them.
Arabic's mirrored. So is traditional Chinese is mirrored also. Those are the two off the top of my head that I can't.
Hold on a second. It is so this is really interesting. The front is not mirrored, but the back is because you have to follow it, right? So this is going from, I guess, because it's right to left instead of left to right, you have to mirror it. Otherwise you don't get continuity of the image. Right?
Oh, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
because otherwise it's wrapping around the wrong side.
Oh.
It has to be mirrored. It's not just mirrored, it's like you have to cut and paste the back to the like.
yeah. No, I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. But on the spine though, is the spine image the same or different?
No,
So
the spine
that's
is the same.
so that's the same because like the Yiddish one when you open it, it kind of looks like at first glance it's connected to the rest of the snake, but it's not.
Mhm.
Whoa, oh, that's
So that's kind of a jarring cut on that one.
that's super interesting. Yeah, because in the Bloomsbury one, it's just, or in the English one, it's coming out of nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Thought about
So yeah,
that.
so these are always like all questions that we always have when what's with the art. So we need to talk to a publisher.
I can ask him. I'm sure he'd be able to tell me.
Okay.
I feel like there was probably a consideration of like Yiddish is already kind of like a minority language and off the beaten path, and like you want to like immediately have that brand recognition. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of artists in the Yiddish world. I agree. It would be super cool to have some original art. I don't know. Maybe we do the audiobook and we release it on. What do you release things on these days? You don't, right? I guess like the
Yeah, but
cover
Audible
for that
books
could
can
be.
get their own art with the release, though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That could be cool.
That would be cool.
Could be cool.
I'll send a memo.
Send a memo. And then really quick, because we've talked so long about all this X Factor, for me, it's just that it exists. Honestly, it's so great.
Same. It's that it's here.
Which that's such a cop-out answer because we love all of
It
the
is.
books
I
we
think-
talk about.
I have a really good one for my X
Okay,
Factor. Actually.
what's yours? That it has Arun's name on the inside as the publisher or the translator, and we're talking to him.
No, I'm not going to say
Oh.
that because lack of sticker. Hello. How much did we talk about this sticker on the first book that he got a sticker? There's no sticker.
No sticker.
No sticker. So that's a negative X factor. No, my X factor is the map that's inside, and that like the little like things on the map are also translated, and also like they're translated into it's script Hebrew, which is
Oh, that's
another
really
like
cool.
nostalgic little like nod. Because like when you write Hebrew, majority of the time, like you write it in scripts. Like so, I don't know. I just thought that it just like brought me back to Hebrew school. Like that is so fun. So yeah, that's my X factor.
Oh.
Good
That'd
one.
be something you noticed because it did not bring me back to Hebrew school.
I had an X factor and a negative X factor. The lack of sticker was my negative X
Lack of
factor.
sticker. Did you just get the stickers on a roll this time, Arun, so you can just pass them out as you go by people on the street? Like just stick them on their jackets?
So whereas the insert was doable this time because it's not, I guess it's not technically attached to the book and therefore it's like not as legally whatever. Like I don't think we would be allowed to make a sticker. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with me making a sticker that says translated by me. Who's going to sue me for that? But
Put it on your own copy.
yeah. I may not be allowed to stick it on. Like as soon as I stick it on, like an owl comes and drops a letter being like, you have violated.
It'd be great if it was like a stick of your face with like a thumb pointing at you.
Who has two thumbs and translated the Yiddish book? This guy.
I think my X factor is that, well, you guys said it's here, or somebody said it's here. For me, it is that it is no longer taking up space in my head. So it is gone, and I'm very happy about that because there's
A different perspective of it being here.
Away from me and to you with love.
I love that.
Oh.
Love that.
So with all of that, this was such a jam-packed episode, so much fun. Arun, we love having you on. You're welcome anytime. It doesn't have to be like, we don't have to wait for you to translate the next one for you to come back.
That'll be good motivation. Tell me that I can't talk to you again until it's done.
All right, if you insist. But if you want to get in touch with us, or if you wanted to get in touch with Arun, there's a plethora of different ways that you could do so. We all are on Instagram. We have a website. You can support us on Patreon, and that gives you access to our Discord. Arun is on our Discord, which is really cool. So you could get in touch with all of us on there. Wow, I really just like, my dad would call it the Evelyn Wood version. I just really like shortened up that end piece. I didn't say anything specific, but we're in so many places. And should I mention any of the, should I mention specifics? I don't know. It's like my brain stopped working. No.
We know where we are.
You guys know where we are. You know, you've listened to our podcast before. You know how to find us. All those things. I don't think I have to say it a million times. But what I will say a million times is thank you so much, Arun, for coming back on. Again, we absolutely love having you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is way better than having a translator community, honestly. I feel so lucky and just like, how did I like weirdly fall into this? But it's so awesome. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time with 2 children now. I know that's impossible.
Oh, they're
sometimes.
Sleeping. We're good. They're asleep.
For now. They're sleeping for now.
Turns out they wake up in the morning. Who thought of that?
Yeah, that's I'm still living in anxiety lands of like, oh my gosh, my baby's going to be awake in like 3 hours, but that's fine because my husband will get up with him. And then I'll tell myself that he won't get up again until 4. But last night it was 3. So it's, you know, I love that. I love the unknowns of newborns. He's lucky. He's just so cute. So cute. But with all of that stuff being said, it is now time to walk back through the archway and into our daily lives. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
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 See ya.